Welcome to the Stormsurf video surf forecast for Tuesday, November 5th. First, we'll take a quick look at the North Pacific Ocean significant wave height chart, see what's happening. Of most interest is a gale developing in the northern dateline region here. Seas are already in the 28-foot range and supposedly going up from there. Small little gale trying to form the northern Gulf of Alaska, 18-foot seas, unremarkable. Remnants of another cutoff low north of Hawaii, like 16-foot seas, and not a whole lot of interest, and a tropical system heading for the Philippines and not expected to produce any swell for our forecast area. First, we'll examine the upper level jet stream flow, 250 millibar chart. This winds in the upper level tend to help dictate the formation of storms down at the surface. Of most interest is this developing trough here off Kamchatka, winds feeding up into it in the 130 to 140 knot range. This little counterclockwise circulation in the upper levels of the atmosphere helps develop storm formation down low. We also see the exact opposite going on right here near the dateline. A ridge tends to promote high pressure, and then a little bit of a trough here in the Gulf, and this is exactly what we're seeing when we looked at this significant wave height chart. Storm formation here, and nothing anywhere else. Now let's put it into motion, take a look. You see the trough developing for about 24 hours into midday Wednesday, but then the core of it actually pushes up north into the Bering Sea, and things really wash out. Some troughiness continues here in the Gulf of Alaska, and you put it into motion. Next thing you know, you see this rather large ridge developing by Friday, and a trough starting to deepen, not a lot of wind flowing into it in the Gulf. Continue to put this in motion. The trough sort of develops and washes out. Looks like you get a cutoff flow down in here, but over here it looks like it's nothing but high pressure. We'll keep going. Oh my gosh, look at this. The ridge really develops large over the dateline, a lot of wind energy. So here's a trough here, but it's all cut off. Basically either overland or locked behind the Kuril Islands and Kamchatka. This would suggest high pressure on the dateline, and then a little trough trying to go here in the Gulf. Better organized here. When you're out till Tuesday of next week, there's a much better trough here. Good wind energy flowing into it from the ridge over the dateline, but that's a massive ridge on the dateline. That'll block any storm traveling, trying to go this way towards the U.S. West Coast or Hawaii. Instead, it's all going to get shunted way up into the Arctic. And the trough continues. It almost cuts off a week out. Now let's take a look at surface level pressure and wind. You see in that trough that we saw off Kamchatka, sure enough, a storm, 50 knot winds, 45 knot northwest, aimed well at Hawaii and to a certain degree the U.S. West Coast. Something that almost looks like a very weak low here. High pressure off the U.S. West Coast. Sort of trades, but not quite reaching the islands, and then the tropical system over here heading towards the Philippines. We'll put this into motion, look at it. This storm, 12 hours out, that's Tuesday evening, early Wednesday morning. You have 55 knot winds, aiming well down the Great Circle Pass to Hawaii and to a certain degree the U.S. West Coast. But by Wednesday morning, it's already in the Bering Sea. We'll sort of put this back in motion. Yeah, actually, those winds are barely clear of the Aleutians even on Tuesday evening. Anyway, that goes up into the Bering Sea. Here comes high pressure building below it. Put it into motion some more. And we see a little gale trying to get formed off of Vancouver Island. Nothing too significant, 45 knot winds, but it's not even in the swell window for California. This is a system just for the Pacific Northwest, and it quickly peters out, and by Thursday afternoon it's inland. High pressure on the dateline, 1040 millibars, pretty strong, and holding. Only building 1044 millibars by Friday, and holding there. Virtually nothing else going on. Everything's getting shunted north, or it could fall down the backside of this high, but that's the dominant weather feature. continue to put it into motion. Additional high pressure moving in to reinforce the dateline high. 1044 millibars, building 1048 millibars. That's extremely high pressure and covering, almost filling the North Pacific. So that pretty much dooms any storm from forming in the prime swell generation area. We have low pressure here by, this is next Monday evening, and forming a weak gradient with the high, so you get this 30, 35 knot winds, sort of aimed at Hawaii, not really so much at the U.S. West Coast. And you get up to 45, 40 knots in that area. But again, this is the Hawaii Hawaii swell producer more than the U.S. West Coast. We'll roll it out, and even more fetched aimed at Hawaii. So that's good for probably just eyeballing it 13, 14 second period swell and in pretty close proximity. So now we're back to the significant wave height chart, and I rolled this back to Thursday last week just to notice this system that developed towards the dateline. Swell from this system has already passed Hawaii. It's rolling into California as of Tuesday evening, but just wanted to sort of follow the track here, and you notice we had up to 40-foot seas. Now, Hawaii got some swell from this, not bad, but notice most of this system, as it was lifting northeast, the energy was all going that way, and to get energy down into Hawaii, you got to follow these great circle tracks into the islands, which it did not happen. But we'll put that into motion. Now let's do this the other way. Let's look at the Northern California tracks and notice how, as we put this into motion, it pretty much was pushing right up those great circle tracks, and that's sort of cutting a bit sideways to them, or not even quite perpendicular, though about 30 degrees off. As of, that was Friday evening, but still not bad. That pushes a good amount of energy up here, and certainly Northern California's seen some of that this evening with face heights in the 10-foot range and a 16 to 17 second period. So that's pretty nice. Okay, now we're back to present. Here's our gale that's developing just west of the dateline, 28-foot seas, and you can sort of see aimed a little bit at the U.S. West Coast, aimed a little bit at Hawaii, or at least it so appears. But when you put it into motion, there you go. That's actually, this is Tuesday evening, early Wednesday morning. You have good energy pushing down the Great Circle tracks to Hawaii, but also reasonably well towards the U.S. West Coast. And we're talking 39-foot seas, 38-foot seas, just sort of putting this into motion. Actually, it looks like it's pushing better towards California than Hawaii. We'll roll this through and just sort of take a quick examination. Yeah, it's more going sideways to Hawaii. Still, decent swell should result for both from this system. Okay, let's just go ahead and put this into motion and see what else happens. You notice the system is up into the Bering Sea by Thursday morning, and of no interest to anyone. A little bit of residual wind energy down here south of the Aleutians. Then we got that little system off of British Columbia and Washington, about 28-foot seas, but again, great circle tracks. Watch this. Nothing. This is the cutoff for the San Francisco area. Point Reyes totally blocks it. Very little energy. So this is more of a Cape Mendocino type storm. So we'll keep going here. Weak energy pushing through the Gulf. You get 20, 22-foot seas. That's as of Friday. That'll be good for some 13-second period swell somewhere along the U.S. West Coast, but nothing remarkable. And then you look at this. Here's the core of the high pressure system, and nothing. I mean, you're talking 3 or 4 foot seas out there. And then you get that developing low. Here's the center of the new high. This is a week out on Tuesday, just about. Here's the energy bound for Hawaii. Nothing really for the U.S. West Coast. And we keep going, and things even get quieter in the core of the high. But again, Hawaii should fare pretty well. 13, 14 second period energy from 22-foot seas here north of the islands. And how far north? Not too far north either, so that's not bad. And that's a week out. Now let's start examining the long-term trends. We tend to look at the Southern Oscillation Index for evidence of the Madden-Julian oscillation. When the MJO is active, that tends to promote storms in the North Pacific. When it's inactive, it tends to suppress storms in the North Pacific and tends to result in high pressure. Based on what we've seen on the models, it sure looks like high pressure is bound to be set up in the North Pacific. So let's see what we can see as we pick through the numbers. We've been through a pretty good run here of negative numbers, especially this little 4-day stretch here is nice. And still, we're trying to hang in there. This is all indicative of the active phase of the MJO. Not particularly strong, but a nice 15, almost 20-day run. Today, the daily average is -3 and change. The 30-day average is running negative for first time in a while, -1.8, and the 90-day average is about 1.5. So right around neutral is where we're sitting. Let's look at surface level wind anomalies. These are deviations from normal for this time of year. In the West Pacific, the general flow is neutral on the date line. Here's anomalies driven by the tropical system off the Philippines. A little bit of west anomalies on the equator, and the equator is what we're really looking at, give or take 5 degrees north or south of it. And this is what tends to dictate the flow of warm water on the equator to the east and tends to drive the formation of, or at least contribute to the formation of El Nino. Light east anomalies generally over the maritime continent. Nothing too strong going on. Let's look a little bit further to the east, and neutral the whole way across. So just looking at winds, you'd say it's probably a neutral phase of the MJ. Now let's look a week out, the 180-hour forecast. East anomalies are forecast over the entire equatorial maritime continent dateline region. That's clearly significant of the inactive phase of the MJO. These aren't horrendously strong anomalies, but enough to sort of put a damper on storm formation, and they're covering good area. Look at this, we're going under Hawaii, almost halfway to Central America, and it's east anomalies over the whole way, so that would be a good clue that the MJO is going to turn inactive. Looking at the forecast for the MJO, these are outgoing long wave radiation models. This definitely indicates that there's a lot of reflection off the surface. High pressure is what it suggests, and it means that the inactive phase of the MJO is already in effect as of now and continuing to hold for the next 15 days per this is the statistic model. Also notice though that you have an active phase building in the Indian Ocean, and the way this goes is the whatever phase of the MJO you're in, it tends to migrate from west to east across the Pacific and actually the whole way around the globe. Let's take a look at another model here. This is the dynamic model. The dynamic model is a little bit more aggressive in the demise of the inactive phase of the MJO, which would be nice if it was believable. It says like a week from now, 6-8 days from now, it's all going to be gone and we'll be back into a neutral phase. Probably reality is somewhere between the two models. I would guess about 10 days out, the inactive phase will be gone. Whether we go into an active phase or just a neutral phase is hard to tell at this point, though. Now we're going to look at the long-term forecast. This model is a jet stream level model. Tends to be about a week or two ahead of reality down at the surface. This one suggests that the inactive phase of the MJO right here in these is already in the East Pacific and heading out, and that would probably sync up pretty well with the previous models we looked at, and that a very, very weak active phase will build behind. So it just sort of lingers. It's almost neutral for all practical purposes. So we're talking the 10th of November, 15th, 20th, 25th, and then it all just sort of devolves into kind of a neutral pattern completely. Maybe little hints of an inactive phase again in the first week or two of December, but in all, this suggests an extremely weak pattern, and other models we've looked at pretty much say the same thing. The MJO is not much of an influence, but it's enough of an influence to supposedly make strong high pressure a week out, so we won't completely discount it. Quick look at sea surface temperatures, deviations from normal. This is actually the best we've seen in months and months and months. There's been this persistent cool blue, dark blue shading coming off of Peru, Ecuador, typical of the dominance of the inactive phase of the MJO, if not La Nina. That's all gone now. What we actually see is a reasonable sense of some sort of a warm tongues trying to get started here. If you see a lot of this type of water building up, that's El Nino, but clearly we're not there yet. We're nowhere close. But at least it's warmer rather than cooler. We'll see how long it holds. We got warm water coming into the U.S. West Coast, but it's been held at bay. There's been this persistent high-pressure kind of northerly fetch thing going on along the California coast and then wrapping under Hawaii, so you can see the upwelling created by those surface winds, trades, and kind of breaking up the warm water pattern, but not too bad. And over in Africa, sometimes you get this mirror image thing going on. Actually, things are warmer over here than where they have been all summer, which is all a sort of a mirror image of the warm thing going on here off of South America. So this is all generally good. It's just a neutral pattern, maybe a little hint towards warm, but not El Nino, nothing close. Just kind of a neutral pattern, if anything. And finally, subsurface level water temperatures, specifically the anomalies. We got a pocket of warm water. This is 180, so this is the date line. Heading east, it's actually been making some progress. This is maybe suggestive of a warm Kelvin wave heading towards South America. Another little pocket of slightly warmer subsurface water here. The idea being that if it makes it the whole way across, gurgles up to the surface, and then starts radiating back on the surface, that would be how you start getting the warm water off of Ecuador that is suggestive of El Nino. I don't think that's really going to be the case, but any warming is a good thing. Anything to prevent cold water from building up in this area in particular is what we want to see, and it would suggest a healthier, more normal pattern for the North Pacific. So quickly wrapping up for this forecast, the best bit of activity going on is this last storm that's forming, supposed to produce 38-foot seas aimed towards Hawaii, U.S. West Coast. That'll be in the next 24 hours. After that, it tends to be a high-pressure lockdown with some sort of spurious activity in the Gulf, but nothing too dramatic. So we'll have to suffer through the high-pressure bout. That, we suspect, is all going to be related to the building of the inactive phase of the MJO. The good news is it's supposed to be short-lived, maybe a week or week and a half, 2 weeks at worst case, and then maybe we'll fall back into a better pattern. Notice also there was no split in the jet stream, so that's kind of a good sign too. So in all, we'll get one more swell out of this. Nothing dramatic, but good enough to be rideable. Then we're going to have to suffer through a week or two of not so much surf, and then hopefully we'll fall back into a good pattern. So that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed the forecast. And also, we appreciate the comments and subscriptions to the YouTube video channel. If you have feedback, good or bad, post it there. We appreciate it. We're reading it, and we'll try to incorporate anything you suggest into future forecasts. I know these run a bit long, anywhere from 17, 18, 19 minutes. Lot to discuss. It's kind of hard to do it less, but we could cut it out, make it shorter, but then we miss some of the good stuff. So it's up to y'all. Let us know what you want, and we'll try to work on it. Thank you very much.